As a beginner guitarist, you've probably only been playing a few months now. This Neil Sedaka song is a great song for you to learn because it features a few of the typical beginner guitar chords that you learn. And it's also a great song to learn because it's got an easy structure, it's easy to follow, and it shouldn't take you too long to add this tune to your growing collection of songs that you can play. Hi and welcome to this guitar tutorial for beginners, and in this tutorial you're going to learn how to easily strum Neil Sedaka's Our Last Song Together. On the screen now you can see the song and the structure of the song, and it's quite easy to follow. You can see that it's got an intro, it's got a verse, it's got a chorus, then another verse, then another chorus, then it's got a little interlude followed by a verse and a chorus and this interlude again before it has a final chorus, and then it goes into the end. And the chords you're going to use are some of the first chords that all beginners learn. Now, like many of Neil's songs, it's piano driven, but you can hear the acoustic guitar in the background, and that's what you'll be doing. As I said, you'll be using basic chords. It's not the same as the chords on the record, and I'll explain how you can make it the same later on in this video. First, what we're going to do is have a quick look at the chords that you're going to need. You're only going to need 4 chords, G, C, D and A minor. If you're comfortable with those chords, then skip over to the main part of the lesson. If not, stick around and we'll have a quick look. So here's the G chord, you can see it on the screen now. This is the way that I play it, and I use the 4th, 3rd and 2nd fingers to do this. Another common way to play it is using the 1st, 2nd and 3rd, or you might even use all 4 fingers like you can see here. Now it doesn't matter which one you play, they'll all sound good. One thing you will do though is you will play all 6 strings. If the G chord is still a bit of a struggle, try this alternative way, and it's just using one finger, either the 3rd or the 4th finger, on the 3rd fret of the top E string, the 1st string. And here all you'll be doing is playing the top 4 strings. So you need to be a bit more careful about which strings you're strumming here. So here's the C chord, and you can see 2 versions. One's using 3 fingers, one's using 4 fingers. If you play it using the 3 finger way, then try not to hit that low E string. If you're using all 4 fingers, then play everything and it'll sound great. If you're still finding this a bit of a stretch, then you could try this alternative version here, and you're just using the 1st and 2nd fingers. And like the easy version of the G chord, you're only playing the top 4 strings. So you need to have a bit more control over your strumming hand. On the screen now is a D major chord, and this one here you're using your 1st, 2nd and 3rd fingers, and you can play all top 5 strings here if you want to, but try and avoid that 6th string. Use your thumb to dampen it down. A slight departure now. The other 3 chords were major chords, but this one is now a minor chord, and it's an A minor chord. And you can see the fingers that we're using, the 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Now ordinarily you would just play the top 5 strings. If you hit the 6th string, it's okay, it's not really a big drama. But that's the basic shape for an A minor chord. So that was a quick run through of the chords. If you want a more complete run through of them, then check the link in here somewhere or in the description below, and you'll see a playlist for all the chords that you need. With all these beginner guitar song tutorials, I often recommend just a simple down strumming pattern. So, in each bar you will play 4 down strums, and it will go like this. And I'm just using a G major chord here to demonstrate. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a nice basic strumming pattern, and it gives you a chance to focus less on your strumming hand and more on the chord changes that you need to make throughout this song. Something a little bit more complicated for this song is this particular strumming pattern here. And I've got the diagram there so you can see it. The pattern is like this. I'm just going to demonstrate it with the G chord. So kind of keep your hand more on this. keep your hand, keep your eye more on this hand. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 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 1. One thing you might notice is that there is more of an accent on the first and the third beats. 1, 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3. What we're going to focus on now is just the introduction. However, as we go through this, I'll give you a quick tip on how to make that G and C chord a little easier. Now, as you see, for the introduction, it's G, C, G, D. And it's 4 bars, and each bar contains 4 strums. So you'll have 4 strums in each bar. But for this though, because it's the introduction, it's quite soft. It's actually a piano introduction. But what we can do is just pray. Well, you can do that if you want, but we could just play 1 strum per bar. It's kind of a bit of a way to get you warmed up before you get going. So as I said, G, C, G, and D. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then at the end of that D, we go straight into the verse. The great thing about this verse is that you can see like the first 8 bars are exactly the same as the intro. But now what we're going to do is we're going to add a bit more of a rhythm pattern. So we can do either the straight down strokes, or you can do the slightly more complicated way. Now, the second part of the verse, well, there's a slight change. We're now going from, instead of going from G to C, we're now going C to G, C to G. And this repeats here, C to G, one more time before we play our A minor chord. And then we have 2 bars of D. So in this whole verse and in fact the whole chorus, we're using all of the chords that we need. So I'm going to play the verse for you, the complete verse. I'm going to play it quite slowly. I'm going to use the basic down pattern. However, if you want to see it with the more advanced pattern, there's a link to another video with me just doing a complete run through of the song. But for this one here, as I said, I'm going to keep it nice and simple. Play along with me, or just watch my strumming hand, watch my chord changes as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. Days of devils, kings and clowns, angel songs and birthday tunes, valentines and wishing wells, magic stairways, moons and Junes, silly rhymes, monkey shines, pictures on a stage, round and round the records go, time to turn the page. From there we go into the chorus, but before we do, let's have a look at how we can make the change between G and C a little easier. So here's the G chord, here's the C chord. G, C. Now, one of the things you'll notice, if you are playing it like me, then these 2 fingers, all you're going to be doing with these is you're going to be lifting them up and moving them from the 6th and the 5th string to the same position, but on the 5th and the 4th string. And then you're going to put the first finger down. Of course, you won't have that on there. And that's a really simple way, that's a quicker way to make the change. You see, the thing is, when you're playing it like this, if you're going from G, or if you're playing it like this, and then to change to C, there's a lot going on. Everything changes. But if you're playing it like this, there's not much movement coming from your fretting hand. And that's just a little easier way of doing it, which is why I favour this particular shape. So here's the chorus, and it's on the screen for you now. And we've got 9 bars here. And we've got all the same chords. We've got C, G, D, and then G for the first 4 bars. And then C and G again, followed by an A minor, and then 2 bars of D. However, one thing you'll do on the final D, you'll just play 1 strum and then stop before going back into the second verse. So let's have a go. I'm going to play this a little slowly for you again and have a little bit of a sing-song because, you know, I love singing. And just down strums. So the chorus comes in after the final 2 bars of D on the verses, which is where I'm going to start with. 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be our last song together. Words will only make us cry. This will be our last song together. There's no other way. We can say goodbye. At the end of the chorus, when Neil Sedaka sings, we can say goodbye, on the word bye, what you play there is the introduction again. So just G, C, G, D. The song then goes into the second verse, the second chorus. Now, after the second chorus, there's this little interlude, if I can say that word. This little interlude, and there's a bit of la 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 on that part. And again, that is now the introduction played twice. So fortunately, not too many parts to this song. And some of the parts are repeated, which makes it a nice song to add to your collection because it's not too complicated. For this guitar tutorial for beginners, I used G, C, D and A minor. Now those are not exactly the same chords as on the record. If you want to play along to the record, you'll need one of these things here. And this is what is called a capo. And if you put one of these on your guitar at the 2nd fret, like so, you can then play along with the record. You'll play exactly the same chords, G, C, D and A minor, the same chord shapes, but because of this, it will allow you to play in the same key as on the record. Now these things, they're not very expensive, so I do recommend getting one. They come in all shapes and sizes, and but you know, this is a pretty basic one. It does the job. And I've got a link down below, so why don't you check them out. So here's the song, the complete song on the screen for you now, and we're at the ending, and this comes in quite clearly after the final chorus. And again, all this does is play the same chords as the intro and those 2 interludes, but when it gets to the final D, it slows down before finishing off on a G. And so something like this. Now for the ending, you could just play 1 strum per bar like the intro at the very start there. Or you could just keep doing the 4 strums per bar part. 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be our last song together. There's no other way. We can say goodbye. La 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 la. That just brings a tear to my eye. If you want a complete worksheet based on this song with the chords, the lyrics and the complete structure, then email me and I'll send it over to you. If you want to see me do a complete run through of this song using the other strumming pattern, then click the link here somewhere or check the link down below in the description to this video. Until next time, happy strumming.